Hey, Metaverse people, welcome to PodFest Asia, coming right up in under a minute's time. Our live interview with Lazius Kaye, positive change maker, AR and VR. So that's his area of expertise, and a little bit of a short introduction before I bring him on to our virtual podcasting stage. He's an VR AR influencer and also a consultant and content strategist, and based around in China and Southeast Asia. His mission is to educate the masses about the practical uses of AR, VR, while assisting businesses and professionals about the benefits of new technologies. He's presently an official partner with 40 of the world's most renowned AR, VR studio development agencies and a channel ambassador for HP, DPVR, Pico Interactive, Cybershoes, and VR Wave. He has also conducted demos close to more than 2,000 individuals living in Singapore and China. So without further ado, let's bring our dear friend into our podcast studio. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Wayne. Thank you very much for having me on your show today, and great music in your prelude to your start of the podcast. Really enjoyed that.
Thank you for showing love for the music selection. Yeah, it's uplifting and perhaps a good fit for this Metaverse team event. So it's always a great honor and privilege to have a new guest coming on to grace this event. So maybe let's start with your story. I think this is my favorite question for every guest who come on. We would love to hear how you got started and how the journey has been so far for you.
Sure. Well, at the time I was working for a company in Singapore called Suntec, the conference and venue center. And whilst I was there, I dabbled into VR on the side after working hours, and it really took hold of me completely, because VR has come such a long way in the last 15 to 20 years. You no longer have to wear these really heavy things on your head. Everything is pretty light enough, let's say, and also the experiences inside, which are developed by all the various different development studios, are just outstanding in terms of graphics quality, in terms of fluidity, in terms of velocity. Nothing's lagging. The technology's there. There's definitely a good structure now, good foundations to really move forward quite rapidly within the next 5-10 years, I would say. So it's just really amazing to be part of something that, to me, felt this is the future. So VR is not the only technology that's going to spark the revolution, the digital revolution. I would say that AR is probably going to go faster than VR when it's ready to launch, specifically next year with AR new spectacles. And XR, which is a mixture of virtual reality and augmented reality, which basically means you can see the real world, but you can interact with the digital objects. With AR, you can't. You can only look at it. You can be part of the immersion, but you can't interact with the digital surroundings. So VR just means that you're enclosed within the digital world, and you can't actually see the outside world. So as you mentioned, I started a YouTube channel a couple of years ago, which was whilst I was at Suntec, and has grown a little bit so far. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers now. But it's just great to be part, as I mentioned, of something that is very new still. Most people in it are still very much early adopters, I would say. So it's very, very challenging to get people here in Southeast Asia, especially in Singapore, whilst VR is completely taken over there, with a lot of fashion brands opening up, for example, virtual reality fashion stores for people to go and try their clothes on with their avatar. Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia is still very much, we don't know, maybe we'll try when the rest of the world catches on. But the fact is, most of the world is actually catching on. So now is the time for Southeast Asia to get onto the bandwagon, I would say.
I think you nailed it on the head in terms of the adoption, right?
Yeah.
Singapore in this part of the world, we seem to be a little bit slow when it comes to all these tech advancements, right? Although there are definitely a lot of enthusiasts who are really active and are even global experts in this space. I would say that you're one of these experts who are actually, bringing this form and delivering the messages and the benefits to not just, people in the gaming world, but corporations and brands as well as people who are doing content, strategies, right? You're a perfect person to get educated on this realm, and you've already broken down some of the key terms that I'm already learning so much in the last few minutes. What's the difference between XR and AR, and of course VR that seems to be the one that's kicked things off, right? And we definitely want to talk about Apple, new glasses that we are all, been waiting with bated breath, because they've actually hired these people for the last 10 years. They've been developing these glasses for decades long already. And we know that they love to make things or their hardware perfect before they actually launch it to the audiences and the consumers, right? So what are you most excited about this mixed reality glasses that Apple is rumored to be putting out really, really soon?
Well, it is very exciting for our industry, simply because, more importantly, because there's a big fight happening in our industry at the moment between PC VR, which is the traditional virtual reality, which has sparked from using a computer, and standalone VR, which basically means a wireless VR device, which everything is inbuilt. So it's just like a mobile phone, which you don't need to plug into a PC to make it run. You can just carry it, wherever you go, right? So the space in the standalone is very exciting, because it's, the last 2 years or so, we've had a couple of devices come out, 3 devices come out, one specifically for the consumer, where everyone's really excited about it. And unfortunately, there are no competitors. And this brand, which has come out in the consumer market, has basically been eating up all its competition, not really giving any form of room for anyone to be able to compete with them. And everyone just despises that brand so much, but they want to be in VR, they want to experience VR. So they feel they don't have a choice. They buy this specific brand. However, in the enterprise markets, there are more models which are out there. For example, Pico, which come out with this headset here, which is called the Pico Neo. They just released the Pico Neo 3. HTC just revealed a new Vive headset, Vive Focus, and there are a few other brands out there. So there's more competition, more room for companies to be able to have choice. So we're very excited about Apple, because they'll be, to our knowledge, the first company to really put potentially a serious dent in Facebook, because that's the company that at the moment is leading in the consumer market, but not leading in the enterprise market. So we're very excited about Apple because, as I mentioned, they're the ones with the huge budgets. People, like Facebook, unfortunately, their business model isn't tied to specifically a hardware. It's tied more to the data that they're able to collect and sell back to third parties, or to use in their benefit to, potentially get more advertisers on board, right? So they make tons of money, and unfortunately, the other guys like HTC or Pico, all these people, they're more reliant on the actual hardware, the revenue of the hardware, than the revenue from anywhere else. That's the problem. So the pricing reflects that. So now Apple, when they release their headsets, are going to be pretty expensive, apparently. We think that it's generally because they're trying to test out the market first and try to see whether their products will be any good. And also, it doesn't seem like they want to create an image problem as well. They want to stay within the branding that they're known for, which is very elite, luxurious, about quality, and not about cheap. So the headsets are going to be pretty expensive. There's also a lot of mystery about it, because apparently one of the headsets will come with a huge box the size of a PC. So we don't know whether this will be the consumer market one, or whether this would be the enterprise market one, that would require so much power to drive it that it would require this huge box to go with it. And then also they're rumored to come out with some augmented reality glasses as well. So these would actually tie back apparently to the actual iPhone. So the iPhone, the new iOS, which will come out, I think, next year, I think it's the iOS 15 or iOS 16, I can't remember, will power this specific augmented reality glasses. Now, the other reason why we're quite excited about Apple is because they already have an ecosystem with all the Apple AR kit AR developers who've been, creating a lot of content. So it'll be very interesting to see how this content can actually translate with their actual AR glasses. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of the competitors have the hardware, but they don't have the content. So they have to rely on third parties, which perhaps aren't there yet. And maybe they just have, like, for example, there's one company called Nreal, which is one of the first ones in the world to have one of the most advanced AR glasses on the market today, but they don't have that much content on it. So yes, you can watch a movie, for example, like you have your own personal plasma screen. It really feels like you have a plasma screen, on your wall, wherever you're watching. You can browse web, all these kind of things. You can do the basic stuff, but you don't have all this stuff to hook you that would want to keep using it time and time again. The Angry Birds factor that came to the iOS when that app came out, that really grabbed a lot of people, to using an Apple mobile phone back in the day, right? So you need those kind of content to come out to hook people. And unfortunately, at the moment, that's what's missing is content. So it's going to be very exciting to see what Apple can do.
Very insightful, my friend. I think you've said so many things that I'm all dying to hear because, I love this comparison with all these big tech firms in terms of their strategy to roll out this sort of technology. And of course, the hardware will drive this adoption, right? And unfortunately, I'm one of those who actually went for the lower hanging fruits. I think you just mentioned about Facebook. We definitely want to talk more about Facebook because I own one of these, a nasty little piece of tech. Let me show you. Yeah. I have one of these, and
my camera's gonna break.
Yeah, we definitely need to.
My glasses are gonna.
But no, for someone like me who's from the podcasting space,
sure.
I got into VR because NFT artists told me about the VR gallery events that they've been immersing themselves into. And as a podcaster, my job, I would say, is always to check out what's new, not just necessarily to be ahead of the curve to see where people are hanging out, right?
Yeah, of course.
So I was actually thinking of getting one of those pieces that you own that you were showing us earlier. That was my first choice because, like Apple, I'm a big Apple fanboy. I believe in privacy a lot as well. And I love the fact that all their ads or commercial campaigns on their new iPhone is all about privacy, where the ad is not talking about specs, it's talking about privacy. I think that's one of the good segue that we can actually go into with my next question, which is about Facebook's strategy. How their ads are actually infiltrating VR games right now. I was in one of the Oculus community groups on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I'm on Facebook because I have many, audiences, or should I say friends who are still hanging out there, especially the boomer generation. We grew up with Facebook, so you can't avoid Facebook. And there is an Oculus community who are complaining that one of the games that they purchased at, I think, 1990 or maybe a 2990, I can't remember, suddenly are now playing ads. So they basically complained to the developer that, hey, I bought this game and I didn't expect you to actually run ads when I'm playing the game. Do you think this is actually a valid complaint? And consumers of gaming, all these great apps in the VR world, right? When you're wearing one of these, they have all the right to actually tell the developers that don't allow Facebook to run their ads on the game that I purchased with my hard-earned dollars. Do you think that's a valid reason or complaint?
Well, first things first, just in case that your audience perhaps is not aware, because I know a lot of the people who watch your podcast, perhaps they're not into VR and, maybe some education is required. So first of all, for the enterprise market specifically, there are two types of different VR headsets. So one of the VR headsets that, for example, you showed, or this one from Pico, or this one here, which is the HP Reverb G2, they're what we call 6 degrees of freedom. So 6 DOF. Sorry, do you need me to?
Yes, one more time. Is that a HTC or a Vive?
So this is the HP Reverb G2.
Okay.
And then this is the Pico Neo 2, but they came out with the Pico Neo 3, which they'll be sending me to test out soon.
Yes.
So the difference between these headsets and the one that you showed and this one here, I'm going to show you one more, which is from DPVR.
It looks so cool.
Oh, this won a design award. I can't remember the actual competition, but it's a global recognized award. So they won awards for the design. But anyway, the difference between this last headset and the headsets that you showed and these ones is what we call degrees of freedom. So people need to know that there are two types. One is 3 degrees of freedom, which means that when you put this headset on, you can only turn your head in VR up or down, left or right, but you can't actually move inside of VR with your limbs. So you can't walk in VR like you would in the real world. 6 degrees of freedom, which is the other headsets that we just showed, means that you can replicate any movement inside of virtual reality that you could in the real world. So this is important for people to understand, because depending on their company's strategy, they may not need a 6 degrees of freedom, for example, headset, which are very expensive, by the way, compared to a 3 degrees of freedom headset. They're basically a quarter of the price or 2/4 of the price. And when you're doing, for example, online class, like the University of Genoa just signed a partnership with a company to do online classes. So people will actually put their headsets on from home because of COVID. And then the company is going to replicate the actual university in virtual reality and also design specific courses in virtual reality. For example, history lessons, go back in time, see the actual battles and be part of those scenes as if you're really there using a 3 degrees of freedom headset. So, it's important to understand these kind of differences as to what people are looking to do. But for example, if you're looking to train, someone to, for example, put a car together, like an engineer like Volvo or Aldi, they use VR a lot to train their engineers, to teach them how to put the cars, what the parts, where to put them, all this. So they need to actually pick them up and move around the scene. So they'll use a 6 degrees of freedom headset. So coming back to your question, basically, personally speaking, yes, I mean, again, you have to remember that everybody who's in this space, especially those who are creating a lot of noise, are early adopters. We have not passed, excuse me, the early adopters phase whatsoever. We're still very much in it at the moment. I think there's maybe 20 million people, maybe, 50 million people with a headset on a weekly basis, putting it on. I mean, it's a very low number. Facebook have only sold a few million headsets in the last few years, maybe 6 million if they're lucky. Maybe. I don't even think they put 6 million, to be honest with you. And when you count HTC and all the other brands, we're really not there. So when it comes to the developers, you have to remember that they're not making that much money. Some of them are, but the majority aren't. So, the AAA titles, because in the consumer, of course, VR is serving, I would say, 2 or 3 different purposes. One purpose would be very much spared for VR fitness, for example. So you have people who do VR fitness are doing pretty well. And other people like zombie shooters or, shooting games, war kind of games, these kind of things are doing pretty well as well. And also simulations are doing extremely well too. So like car sims are doing very well too. So I think it's important for developers to be able to make revenue somehow. So putting ads in a game isn't really the issue. But when you go into virtual reality, you don't want to be detracted from your experience, which is a form of escapism, right? So I think the debate going on in the industry at the moment is, well, I don't want to see something that's irrelevant to me, or I don't want to see it that reminds me of the real world. So for example, I don't know, an ad about a dentist, for example, when you're playing a car sim, or you're playing a zombie shooter and suddenly you have Chanel popping up out of nowhere. That's not really what we want to see. But it'd be great if a zombie perhaps, could be wearing some kind of garment that fit with the theme or whatever, done in a more creative way, in a less intrusive way. I think also if we're going to have pop-ups in VR, it's not really going to be helpful, meaning that you start the game, suddenly it stops for 30 seconds and you have to wait for 30 seconds for the app to stop, then you go back in. I think that's not really going to be very helpful. But more importantly, when we're talking about Facebook, the issue with Facebook is the fact that, first of all, they're able now to track more than 2 million data points every 20 minutes. It's been proven, it's been talked about, the data's out. They could pick up any conversation you have with other people. So, For example, I sold all my quests, so I'm using my memory now, but there used to be a feature called Parties where you can basically have a Skype call with people, but it's not with the video, it's just with the audio. So they can record all these conversations, they record all your gameplay, they can also record all the conversations you have with people around you outside, and they can also record everything outside using the cameras as well. So the issue is that basically they've been taken to court by 50 states in America, as well as 10 or 20 governments all over the world for antitrust. And the issue is that basically they're using this data to then analyze the human or the person, the user, as they call them, to influence their daily habits and predict their next move. In fact, incept their next move before they're even aware of it, by using the actual, well, at the moment, the social media, Facebook, the computer version or the phone version, not the VR version yet. So basically they use all that data to then put specific feeds in your feed, whether it's a comment, whether it's a notification, whether it's an advert, whatever it might be, whatever you see will be a domino of different things to manipulate and to influence your decision-making without you really knowing it. So that's the issue behind advertising and Facebook itself, especially if they're going to be using the RTB technology. Who knows, they might do that, to then show you ads that are different to you compared to another user, because obviously your likes and dislikes and interests are going to be very different to someone else.
Very well said. So, in other words, right, as a general rule of thumb, as a consumer, right, when something is almost free or it's like a fraction of the price of the ones that you are holding, right, it's just natural to expect that when something is either free or so cheap or affordable, you suddenly become the product, and you got to expect that. And if you want to complain, then graduate and maybe move on to the other great manufacturers who are producing even better quality or even better content out there in the metaverse, and get our hands on those other VR headsets you were holding earlier. And then that probably is gonna be something that even I can venture myself doing. I mean, if Apple doesn't roll out their headsets or their glasses soon, right? This is probably something that I'm gonna probably get tired of if it keeps running ads and I couldn't remove those ads. But I have to say that, this is my great introduction to this metaverse world, because suddenly we are actually having this conversation as well about AR and VR as a result of me purchasing this, because I want to do a PodFest Asia VR gallery where I'm able to invite the awesome people like you and NFT artists, of course, to actually, being able to have their art displayed on the VR gallery. And we are all able to actually walk around in this PodFest Asia VR studio and being able to admire art, talk to, our guests, interact with them. And at the same time, we're also able to play back excerpts or even some of our old podcast episodes, and even having some of our cover art on the walls as well. So this has opened up a lot of possibilities. And of course, now you have pointed out some of the other aspects as well that we have to watch out for. So thank you so much for coming on to this show and educate me and our audiences as well. Tell us, what's so great and also what sucks about VR other than headsets?
Well, first of all, if anyone wants to get into VR, especially the enterprise people or people who are enthusiastic, I definitely recommend this book, which is called Reality Check by Jeremy Dalton. And he's the leading AR and VR director for PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers in the UK. And we're actually working with him to do exactly what you're just talking about. But we're building a world for him to actually do his launch of his book in virtual reality. And we're going to have hundreds of different people coming to the world. So this will probably be in August or September. And, that's the great thing about VR. He touches on so many different things in his book. He pretty much nails it, to be honest with you, because, COVID-19, VR, it enables you to really empathize. Empathy, the level of empathy in VR is so much higher than, a virtual call on Zoom or Streamlabs or whatever it might be. So, for example, data has been proven that basically people can remember things much more during both a seminar or a training session when they're in VR compared to when they're behind a computer, simply because they're not so drawn into the world. So, retention rate in terms of information is much, much higher. Also, all the different airlines who train all the air crew, for example, United Airlines or Delta Airlines or Singapore Airlines, even maybe. I don't know if Singapore Airlines are using it or not, but a lot of airlines in the West anyway are using VR, for example, for crash landings and all these kind of things, emergency situations, because it costs so much money to actually deflate all the stuff, all the things you jump on to go into the water. It costs something like $30,000 or $50,000 to put everything back, just for that training exercise, which might only last a day, versus doing it in VR. It won't cost anything. It just costs maybe 10 or 15,000 US dollars to create the software, and it will take 3 months to do it or 2 months to do it. And then you could just reuse it, right? So, these are some of the aspects about VR. It's so cost saving and, affordable and convenient. It's a lot of enterprises in the West. That's why I'm saying Singapore and Southeast Asia should definitely start to get into it now more than they're doing so, because the West has definitely already understood that. In terms of the bad things about VR, well, I think on an enterprise front, there is no bad thing about VR. On the consumer front, it's not ready for the consumer. That's my point. I think the software is ready, the games are there, but because we only have one major brand driving the consumer, and it's not the best option. I mean, just to let you know that most of the biggest influencers in VR are waiting to drop Facebook. That to me is amazing, that the biggest influencers, the top 50 influencers in VR today, are all using that because it drives the views, it drives the clicks, it makes the money, right? But they're waiting so badly. They were so disappointed when HTC did not release a consumer headset. Oh my God, the big hoo-ha that occurred in the industry was so huge because we were expecting it and it didn't happen. We all got so angry, frustrated, and it says a lot that all the top 50 influencers are just so anxious, so ready to jump ship. I mean, that's amazing. That's why I think we're not ready when it comes to the consumer market yet.
I think you nailed it on the head again, especially I think even podcasters, right? I've seen many top podcasters actually leaving Facebook for reasons it has to do with privacy, of course. And of course, these annoying ads that could be, one of the things that drive people away from the content they're building as well. Well, I think in terms of like what you mentioned about Apple, right? Being able to price a product in a premium tier and making glasses and these kind of hardware that normally are, going to be a game changer, right? Like what it did. I think with the iPhone, we've been living with this for 20 years and Apple started that. And if they have a set or a glass that allows this to be actually, penetrating to the masses, to the consumers, and then price it in a way where it's premium, but people are willing to pay like $2,000 for an iPhone or maybe like $1,000 for a spatial audio headphones. These are people that would actually are willing to pay for privacy and paying a bit more because they believe in Apple's quality. So yeah,
the culture is a little different from the West and Asia. Asia, although they are concerned by privacy, that's true. But Asia is much more of a show face kind of culture than the West is. In the West, I would say that the 1% are the show face people. Those that drive really expensive cars and, who have nice homes and all those kind of things. Now, they definitely try and buy always the best things because they live in that show face culture where they need to have the latest thing. Otherwise, very similar to Asia, they feel that they would lose a deal or something like that, right? A business deal. So Asia, though, is not just the 1%, it's really as many people as possible. So Apple in the West, other than the 1%, there's a lot of people who are actually not really into Apple. They're much happier using, for example, Android-driven technology because they feel it's much more secure technology than Apple. In fact, I think Apple in the US doesn't have the reputation that it has perhaps in Asia, which I found quite interesting. So I think Asians on a mass market will definitely be more susceptible to wanting to buy an Apple product simply because of the show face value. What I'm excited about in terms of the Apple product, first of all, it's all going to be about content. If Apple don't have the content, what Facebook did very well when they first came out is they had content to begin with. So people were already hooked. And also they had a AAA title, which was Beat Saber, which got the majority of people to want to try VR because of only that specific application, which was the equivalent of Angry Birds for iOS. So for Apple, we don't know. There's so many NDAs around. We don't know who they're working with to build the titles. We have no idea. So that's going to be, one of the question marks. And then the other thing that I'm personally very excited about, however, is the size of the headset. At the moment, we call them a headset because they're very bulky still, But what Apple are developing is literally a goggle. It looks like the Ready Player One goggle or like a ski goggle. It looks very, very thin, only a few, maybe 100 or 200 grams, it looks like. So, if it indeed comes out like that, then that's going to be pretty exciting as well, I think.
100%. And early on, you have actually, gave us a few use cases where this is going to be adopted already in such a huge way in the business space, right? In the corporations and all these, great companies are already using that extensively to create a better learning or better even processes for their workers or their staff to create new stuff using 3D, using this technology that are already available there. And you mentioned about the content as well. I think probably is a good way to mesh these two together. You mentioned about content because I was surprised to actually find out I could actually watch a preseason game between Man United and my favorite team, Liverpool. In one of the channels in this Facebook Metaverse world, I was basically having a front row seat, or should I say even better, on-pitch seat in front of the goal mouth when Shaqiri put a bicycle kick and scored a goal against Man United during one of those preseason tours, games in USA. And I felt that I'm actually one of the players when I was putting on this Facebook Oculus headset. Yeah, I felt that I'm next to Shaqiri when he spun in the air and scored that goal. And I was talking to another guest on another festival that we call Sports Gaming Live. His name is Thomas Gronemark, and he's the throwing coach for Liverpool FC. And he told me that one of the things that probably he'll be very interested to go into is actually VR, because pandemic has made it impossible for him to travel around the world to do visits to all the football clubs and actually teach them how to do better throw-ins or to optimize those high-pressure situations when you're dealing with throw-ins during a live football game. And one of the things is having one of these so that, he could simulate or he could be in the same virtual pitch together with the players from another club in maybe Singapore. And he couldn't fly here because COVID situation here is still not stable, yeah? And the only way to do that probably is this. And you could be on the same pitch and telling players where to move and giving instructions and even showing some of the clips from Man U versus Liverpool, the VR video version, and being able to point out this is where you should stand, this is where you should go. And of course, we have controllers that you're able to pick up things like football and stuff like that. This is opening up a whole new world of possibilities, right? So, this is actually a good way to maybe mash it up also with what you mentioned about content and use cases. So do you also see other cases whereby the business world, right, are using this now very extensively to conduct their meetings in the VR world and also having lectures or training sessions or even, one of those brainstorming sessions, instead of doing it in real life at a headquarters office, you could basically just shut down the headquarters office, right? And everybody's home is basically their office, and they could be in the same space and working and actually looking at something that they're building and being able to discuss and have, all these notepads, plastered across the screen and have different, guides and content, or even like open up a browser and bring in information. Everybody is totally into it, and it's going to be very immersive and even productive experience, even more so than having to commute to the headquarter office just to have a meeting started, right? Have you experienced anything so far that worked really well in terms of having this sort of brainstorming sessions with your business clients?
Well, first of all, in terms of the media space in virtual reality, Apple bought a company which was called Next VR. So Next VR was actually an application we could use on a variety of different devices, which also did very much like what you explained, but they use virtual VR 360 cameras, and then basically depending on where the cameras are on the specific sporting events, so this could be an NBA, it could be a soccer, F1, could be anything. They would just plonk all the different cameras in different places, and then you could choose the channel which you want to watch, and then you're immersed in VR 360. But it is a VR 360 footage, so you can't pick things. I mean, with their cameras, you couldn't pick things up. You could walk around, but because everything is static, because it's a camera, the world is not moving with you, right? If that makes sense. So it's more like a sitting down kind of experience, even if you're standing up within wherever the camera is. And then also if the camera, for example, is a personal view camera, so it's on someone's head and they're moving around, then yes, definitely you're experiencing whatever that footballer might be doing, because if they're moving around, you're moving around with them. And then your field of view, your eyesight will be basically on top of that player's head if they have the VR 360 camera on their head, for example. So that is very interesting. I also think what's interesting in terms of VR media is also esports, because esports in VR is completely amazing. You can really move around. You can really interact with your surrounding. You can pick all the different, you can have an unlimited number of different camera views, whether you're on the court or you're not on the court. And then, of course, everyone who's in esports playing in VR are not at the same location. These are people who are playing from all over the world, but they're gathered, in one space, right? So, and then also the other final thing I think also is the fact that VR cinemas are quite big too, and these offer facilities for people to be able to enjoy sports together, but in a virtual environment like a cinema, a giant theater. Big Screen, for example, is a very popular app for that, where you could gather with all your friends, and they might be from different parts of the world, or they might be in the same city, but maybe there's a lockdown of some kind, so you can all get together, eat some fake popcorn and all these kind of things on a giant screen in a private cinema. Is pretty awesome. So that's the media space in VR does take up quite a big chunk in terms of its development. And moving forward, it's going to be very exciting. Now, coming back to your question, yeah, definitely. I mean, I have meetings in VR with people who are based in the UK or the US. My personal team also, because we have a team of developers and people we work with when we're helping various different clients to build their worlds. Or, for example, the world we're doing with Jeremy Dalton, the leading AR VR director for PricewaterhouseCoopers. We meet in VR, we all talk together, we look at all the different things. It's very useful for meetings. There's a couple of apps which are very useful. Different apps do different things. So there's no perfect app yet. For example, Glue is a great app, very fluid. You can take Post-it notes, you can put them everywhere. You can be by the sea and the water, have your meeting underwater. It's pretty amazing. The graphics are amazing, but there's a few glitches here and there. You can only have maybe up to 10 or 15 people in the world. There's Verbella, which is another one. You can have up to maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people having a huge virtual reality event. But again, there are certain things you can do in there you can't do in Glue. So, different platforms serve different purposes for different types of events, and also, in terms of the number of people that you can have together in these different environments as well.
And once this cap in terms of number of attendees, this challenge is overcome with new solutions, and developers are continuously rolling out new solutions and features, right? It would please the people in the business world because they love events, right? There are people who love to, have people like even you and I, host events for them that comes in all shapes and sizes. So obviously, VR, AR, all these new technology is great for both, just internal or even external, even everyday meetings. And, there's so many people who have questions that they ask about like how to host even a more wider variety of special events and think outside the box while keeping in mind those technical limitations, right? Which there are definitely plenty right now because we're still at this really early stage. And the first thing first, I think you have broken down for us so succinctly well, which is the size, the rooms as well, right? Like we know that you can have as many rooms as possible in the VR world, and you can even operate those rooms simultaneously. So in terms of preparation, participants have to make sure that they have all their accounts set up, of course, and even their avatars beforehand. And you've already, spelled out some of the possible scenarios as well. You mentioned about all this brainstorming session, having, post-it notes stuck everywhere, and it's in high definition. Everything is so clear and sharp, right? And I'm also thinking aloud as someone who curates virtual events for people, or even festivals like this. You can do easily, a happy hour or presentation, or even a session or speaker series, or even panel and town hall meetings and discussions, right? And or even do a conference with booths. So assuming there are like virtual booths, you can like pretend that each room is like a booth. So everyone who attend this like an exhibitor in the virtual world as well. And having maps sent out in advance or lists and things like that, so people can visit and explore them. So these are definitely ways to elevate this event, virtual space to the next level. Before we let you go, because guess what? We're already hitting the 45th minute mark. I've just maybe one or two more questions for you. Since you're so big into VR and gaming, of course, tell us, has VR pretty much ruined console gaming for you? And tell us, what are also some of the virtual drum kits that you think that we definitely must try? Because I'm also a drummer.
First of all, I'm sorry to say I'm not really a gamer. In fact, the YouTube channel that I produce, which is VR Essentials, is all based on the practical uses of virtual reality and not at all gaming. So just to let you know. So for me, I've never been a big gamer, to be honest with you. I've never really grown up and played I played some of the things, but I can't say it's ruined my experience for gaming whatsoever. I think VR, generally speaking, when I talk to other influencers around and other people in the space, no, it's actually complemented gaming. And if we talk about gaming, PlayStation are releasing their next virtual reality headset generation, which actually looks really amazing. As a non-gamer, I'd love to say, who knows, maybe I'll try it because it does look pretty good in terms of the specs that it's going to offer for entertainment purposes. And also esports, which I guess is a kind of entertainment too. In terms of things to play, I think I love VR fitness. So people who go into VR, who have a VR headset, I would definitely say try something like Racket NX, because it's kind of a futuristic squash kind of game, and it's just so well done. It's so fluid. It works so well. It's been proven, it's been researched as well, that a lot more people stay in VR doing VR fitness, maybe 5 times or 10 times more than doing your average workout. So if you play virtual squash, which is basically what it is, for 50 minutes, you're going to burn more calories, or as many calories, as you would a normal squash game. The difference is that you'll be playing longer in VR because you'll feel the music, you'll feel all the dopamine things that they add into it. So you'll be in there for 2 hours and you'll still don't really feel tired compared to a real squash match, for example. So the brain just deactivates from the pain trigger. So that would definitely be one of them. Another one, if you like drums, Paradiddle is a really, really good app, which offers people the ability to purchase Bluetooth pedal for the hi-hat and the bass kick, so you don't use your controllers to do those things. So you're actually using your feet independently and then your hands to do the rest of it. It's a really, really good app, really well done in early access. And then for simulation, I would say Automobilista 2 is an amazing car racing simulation. When you're behind an F1 car in VR, it's wow.
Are you sure you're not a gamer? Wow. Because I can feel your passion overflowing when you're describing those game titles to us. And I'm more like you, maybe also like a casual gamer. I remember I was gaming really a lot during the Super Mario, 3 era. I think in the 89 or 88, I remember.
Right.
I had to spend like 24/7 just complete the entire game, right? But these days, it's like when an interesting title comes on, like GTA 5, I think I play that game because it's on Game Pass on my Xbox. So
Right.
I'll probably check it out for a while and then I'll get bored with it. And right now, I haven't touched my Xbox for a while, ever since this comes along. And like what you mentioned, minimally, we spend 2 hours on this until the battery dies, right?
Right.
And that means that someone who is really looking to shed their calories, they will only stop moving once the battery dies out because it's so real. And it's getting us really addicted, to the metaverse, to the virtual reality world. And in a way, I've seen a YouTube video from someone else recently who actually spent a week in this and never take this off.
Oh, yes. He
right?
released that video, I think it was a year or two ago.
Yeah, and he mentioned
Yeah.
something that really resonated with me. This doesn't actually make you escape or avoid reality. It adds on to it. And I
Yeah,
think
it
it's
does,
something that
definitely.
you have delivered to our audience as well. You delivered a message that this complements a lot of things that are going on in real life. It is not an escape. It adds on to it and makes life more interesting. Before we let you go, my friend, just want to do a quick rapid fire question segment with you. So the rules are pretty simple. Just give us a really short and pithy response, maximum 1 or 2 sentences. So are you ready? Let's go. What are your proudest life moments?
Being on this podcast.
Wow, really? What do you want doing less of in 2021?
Eat less cakes.
What do you want doing more of in 2021?
Freedom would be great. Less COVID, more freedom.
Your advice for people who are entering the metaverse for the first time?
Just go for it.
Any future ambitions or side projects in the pipeline?
Definitely do more VR projects.
How can people reach you?
Probably by email is the best way.
Fantastic.
Or
I also
Twitter.
understand you-
Or Twitter.
Yes.
They can be on
Yeah,
Twitter.
on Twitter, right? I do need to maybe urge our audience to go check out your website. It's a brilliant website. And of course, you have your VR Essentials YouTube channel as well with so many subscribers. And I'm one of the subscribers. I love watching your
Oh,
content.
thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you
you're
very
doing a
much.
good job.
Thank you.
And I hope that next time, we can meet in real life because you're based in Singapore as well. Let's meet up for coffee. Really,
Yeah,
really
definitely.
soon, my friend.
Definitely. No, if people, I would rather people go to youtube.com/VR Essentials if they want to educate themselves more about the VR things. My personal website is really outdated. There's nothing really much to see, but if they want to go to laziuskaye.com, so be it. I can't stop people from going there.
Sure. So I think I better change the banner from laziuskaye.com to VR Essentials. Yeah, that's the one that you should Google search on when you're in YouTube. Just type that and you'll be deep diving into your world. So any last message or last words for our audiences or listeners who are replaying this podcast on their AirPods or smart speakers later on?
No, I just want to thank you really for inviting me on this podcast. I really love the opportunity and I've had a really good time. So thank you very much.
Likewise, my friend, I really appreciate you and see you around really, really soon. And maybe in the metaverse. And I'll see you very, very soon.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah. Good idea. Goodbye. Cheers. Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So do check out his channel. It's really awesome. Search for VR Essentials on YouTube or go to his website. Lazius Kaye, who is the positive change maker, someone who is really, really active in the AR and VR world. And you could get some great advice and tips from, the right headset to pick up, not this one, of course. And before I go, maybe just want to play this little outro video to send you off for the night. It's almost 9:43 p.m. in Singapore. I have a gym, appointment because I haven't gone to the gym today yet. So I have to rush off to the gym after this. So in the meantime, just enjoy this outro video. I'll see you very, very soon in our next episode of PodFest Asia Metaverse. Wayne Cheong signing out.